Hello. Good morning. Um, what are we doing today? Whoop. Isometric parts. This is our next assignment here. Just like I showed you in class, I took the time to draw out all the little construction boxes on those first four and measure out and actually plan out how I want to do it ahead of time. So when I get to the computer, I can do this stuff very quickly and efficiently, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to keep my sheet right here in front of me as I go through and work through Inventor. So today we're going to work on more additive and subtractive modeling, and then I'm going to show you how to modify and create work planes, all right, and how we can use that to sketch and different keyboard shortcuts, things like that. Okay, so let me share my screen and then we can hop into Inventor. So here we go. Share my screen and we'll hop into Inventor here. What we're going to do is I'm going to start off with our first part. And again, I'm going to go with new part. And you should already have your folders set up and ready to go, so you can just save your parts quickly and efficiently. And then that way you can actually back up that folder wherever you want to do that. Right now, we are using Google Drive, so if that's what you want to use, you can use that. Otherwise, you can use like a flash drive or your network drive, whichever one makes the most sense for you. So here we go. Here's our new part. And the first thing we're going to do is start a 2D sketch on the XY plane. And we're going to grab a 2-point rectangle tool, all right, up in our ribbon bar. And here I go, starting at the origin, dragging up in the positive X, positive Y direction. And I'm going to start off with the overall size of this first part, which is 9 tab 5 enter home. All right. And not a happy computer. Okay, there we go. All right, sorry about that. Computer's lagging a little bit. It's not too happy with me right now. Anyway, let's go ahead and what do we want to do? Let's see. Let's do it this way. I'm going to grab a line tool. I'm going to start off by making this one shape here, somewhere there, and going down to the corner and make sure that we connect on the corner and we get a green. Sorry about that. My computer's just being very slow today. And next, I am going to dimension from the very top of this line. Remember, we dimension all of our lines by location and our angles by location, right? We don't worry about the angle itself. And this distance here is going to be 2. And what that will allow us to do is hit escape. And, remember, if we go and we try to trim this too much of this, it's going to give us an error because that's right, we're going to be measuring from this point. If this point doesn't exist, we're going to get an error. So I'm going to hit escape. I can actually click on this line, right click construction if I want to make sure that I don't get any errors when I go to extrude. And you can see that I now have 2 different colors. So that's going to tell me that this might not extrude properly. So let's see. I'm going to finish my sketch, hit my home key, and go to extrude and see if it's going to, oh, no, we're doing good. All right, we're in good shape here. I'm going to extrude this 6. So I'm going to hit, you know what, let's do something a little different actually. Let's extrude this only 2. And we're going to build this just additively. So what I want to do now is if we want to start a new sketch, we need to attach it to something. So a sketch, just like a piece of paper, if you try to sketch in the air with nothing behind it, it's just going to fall to the floor, right? So you need something to attach it to. So we usually, I've only been showing you how to attach it directly to a flat face, all right? So you need a nice flat surface. If you have a surface that's not flat, it's not going to work. So how do you do that? Well, we're going to start off by introducing this work plane to you. So a work plane, just like when we started our 2D sketch and we grabbed our XY work plane, all right, our default work planes, by the way, if you go into this origin folder, you can see where I have an XY plane, a YZ, an XZ plane. These are all the default planes they give us, along with the axes. All right, X, Y, Z axis. So we can actually make new axes and new work planes. So what I want to do is I'm going to grab this little fly out here by work plane, and I'm actually going to offset plane. All right, so how does that work? Well, it creates a work plane parallel to the selected face or plane at the specified offset distance. So if I click offset and I want to offset, I can click, hold, and start dragging, all right, till I get the distance that I want. Or I can just, after I start dragging off, I can offset this what I want. I want you actually to offset this by 2, enter. And what you have here is a brand new work plane. Just hit the home key there. And you can see that I have one side of this is this orange color by default. Your color schemes might be different. And one side is blue. You can only place a sketch on this sort of orange side of the work plane. There's the front, okay? You cannot put it on the back. So you can only sketch on this orange side of a work plane. So that doesn't really help. What happens if it's not facing the correct way that you want it to face? Well, all you have to do is right click on this, all right? And you want to look for flip normal. And flip normal, see how now it turned blue? All right, I don't actually want to do that. I'm going to hit escape, but you can flip normal to make that flip around, and you might have to do that at some point. But for the most part, it's not something that we usually need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my 2D sketch, and I'm going to put it on the face of this work plate now. And I'm going to hit home to bring this into full view. And what do I want to do? Well, I want to create this next shape here. And this next shape that we can see, let's do this. We get something that follows this. So I'm going to make sure that I align all of my geometry. And it looks, make sure I'm on this line. And I'm going to click here. And it looks something like this. And I'm going to close this geometry now. All right, so now I have closed geometry. I'm going to take my dimension tool. And when I click and drag off, it's actually giving me the dimension of that shape behind it. So that doesn't really help. What I want to do is take the dimension from here to here, from this dot to this edge. And that distance needs to be 3. And then we have this next distance, which is from this bottom to this edge. And that needs to be 5. So go ahead and finish that sketch. And you notice this turned nice in a different color. This time it's dark blue, which is good for me. And you can see I have a sketch all the way out here. All right, that's really helpful for me. It's really helpful. So now I can go ahead and I can extrude that geometry. But where do I want to extrude it? I really don't want to extrude it that way. I want to extrude it into the part. And what's cool is I can actually extrude this all the way through the part and add more material so I get this final shape that I want. All right. So what is going to be the total width of this part? Well, the total width of this part actually needs to be 6. So I can just type in 6, enter. All right. And let's say that before I save my part, this work plane is in my way. So all I'm going to do is get close to it so it highlights. I'm going to right click and uncheck visibility. Okay. There we go. And there's our part. All finished. Pretty cool, right? So work plane did it completely through an additive process using work planes. So go ahead, save that, name it properly, keep your naming convention straight so that way your files don't get all confused, and go ahead and open up a new part file and we can follow along with the next part. And again, as always, we're going to start a new 2D sketch. We're going to start it on the XY plane. We're going to grab the 2-point rectangle to try to figure out what size this is. I'm going to start on the origin, dragging up in the positive X, positive Y direction. And this part right here needs to be 8, tab, 4, enter, home. There we go. So remember tab, just that tab key on the keyboard. All right, so 8, tab, 4, enter, home. And I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to extrude this and cut some simple shapes out of this. This was a pretty easy one. So finish sketch. All right, so we have 8 by 4, and I'm going to extrude, and we're going to extrude that 6. 6, enter, home. And I'm just going to cut out a parallelogram from the top, cutting down into the part. So pretty simple. So new sketch, right click, new sketch, home. Oh, look, I'm looking down from the top, but it's kind of sideways. I don't like that. So I'm going to click over here. Oh, you see that? And I can orient myself by turning that more sideways. So now it looks the way in my head it looks to me, or it should look. Not that there's a right way or a wrong way, but just for me, that's the way I like to do it. And what I'm going to do is I need a parallelogram that looks something. Oops. I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to show you something why I got to hit escape here. I got too close to the center point, and see how that just turns green right there? All right, when it turns green, that means it's going to be attached to the center point. I'm not going to be able to move that or dimension that. I don't want that to happen. So instead, I'm going to come over here. All right, and then I'm going to draw myself a parallelogram, something like this. Yeah, that's it. You know what, I'm not even going to make it parallel. I'm just going to keep it like this here. And we're going to cut this corner off. And just to make sure that we're good, I'm going to make some closed geometry by keeping this attached to the line and closing my geometry so we can extrude. Remember, you can't extrude lines, you can only extrude shapes and closed geometry. So I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. And now I want to cut something like this out. So I just need to dimension it. So I'm going to dimension from point to this edge here. What does that need to be? Let's look over here. That needs to be 2. All right. Then we have this point to here. That needs to be 1. And again, it's this point to the edge. All right. So make sure you're clicking on the end point. The next that we want to do is we want to do from this bottom edge to that corner. And that, except that should be 3, which it is. Good to go. And what else do we need? We need here to here. That should be 5. All right. And I think we're fully dimensioned. Yes, we are. That's it. We're good to go. So you go ahead, finish your sketch. And I'm just going to extrude, select the profile that I want, and as long as the computer can figure out what I want, we're good to go. I want to cut, but I don't want to cut all the way through. I only want to cut a certain distance, and that distance is 2. Enter, and reset my view. And there we go. Pretty simple, right? There's the next one. And again, that was just messing with some dimensions and doing some subtractive modeling. Nothing too difficult there. All right, so let's go ahead and save it, name it, make sure it's in the right spot, you have the correct naming convention, and open yourself up a new part. All right, now I have a new part, and again, this should be becoming routine. Start a new sketch on the XY plane, grab your rectangle tool, starting at the origin, and dragging up positive X, positive Y, so we know what size that we want. The size that we want is going to be 8 by 5, so 8, tab, 5, enter, home. All right, there we go. Now we have this. And let's see, how do I want to do this? Oh, I know how I want to do this. I remember. Let's see, let's grab and start at our corner. And we're going to drag up something like that and make sure it sticks to the line. And we're just going to dimension this from here to here. And that needs to be a distance of 3. All right. Go ahead and finish the sketch, hit my home key so I can see everything, extrude, select my profile that I want, which is going to be right there. And I do want to add material, and I want to add 5. So 5, enter, home. So that's the base shape that we have. So what I want to do is I actually want to spin my view cube around so I can see the back. All right, so I can see the back. I'll adjust it a little bit. And I want to place a new sketch, right click, new sketch, home, over here. And I'm on that left side. And all I'm going to do, this is going to be pretty simple, is I'm going to start on this corner. I'm going to draw a square. And that square is going to be 3, tab 3, enter. Finish the sketch. And if you notice some of you might actually be able to figure out what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to extrude. I'm going to add material, and I'm going to add material. I'm going to switch the direction, and I'm going to extrude it a total distance of 8. And what that's going to do is it's going to line that up with the edge of that. So you can see how I'm extruding all the way through this until I get my final part that I need right there. Click OK. Oh no, what did I do? I cut. When I changed the direction, it automatically assumed I wanted to cut. So now, oh no, what do I do? Well, guess what? Remember, we have our browser window. So our browser window, we can go through and do things like open up the previous sketches, or we can modify extrusion. So what happens if you don't have a browser window? Remember, view, user interface, browser. Okay. So if I just double click on that extrusion, you can see cut is selected, right? Oh, we don't want to cut. We actually still want to add material, but going in that direction. Click OK. Ta-da! Magic, right? Pretty cool. So that, again, I think that one was another pretty simple one. We're going to do one that's going to look a little bit more complex here. All right, on this last one, so again, make sure you go ahead and save that. What I want to do here is start a new part, 2D sketch, XY plane, 2-point rectangle tool, starting at the origin, drag up in the positive X, positive Y direction. And what I want here is 8, tab 2, enter. Now I'm going to actually create an L shape here. And in that L shape, all right, let's zoom out a little bit. If you have a mouse wheel, you can zoom out pretty easily. Otherwise, you're going to have to use one of these tools here. But I'm going to start on this corner, and I'm going to add another rectangle here. All right, and this one is going to be, so I start on that corner and I'm pulling left. You can see that I'm starting at that top dimension, which is going to be tab 3, enter, home. Oh, look, now I have an L shape that I can work with. So I'm going to finish my sketch, hit the home key so I can see. Remember, you can also, if you want to go to isometric, just hit that home. Otherwise, if you're in a sketch mode, you need to hit the home key on your keyboard so it doesn't turn into an isometric look right there. Select profiles, and I want to extrude 1, 2, both of these things in one solid part. And I want to extrude these a distance of 5. 5. Okay. So now we have this right here. This is our L shape that you kind of can see on the paper like that. All right, so it's right about there. All right. Looking pretty good so far. And so what I want to do, I'm trying to see if I can rotate it so it looks better. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to knock off a corner of this. All right, so let's see here. So just like we've been doing with other little like L shapes here, you can see that I have 8. Let's see. Actually, I did that one backwards. Oh, I misread my own notes. That's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm still going to walk you through how to do it. This extrusion, let's make this 8. 8, enter. There we go. Make it a little wider. Let's go here. And I need to chamfer this corner. So I'm going to show you a chamfer. There's something called a draft. Okay. So a draft looks like a chamfer, but it's not doing that. All right. Here is a chamfer. A chamfer is taking a corner, that corner, and cutting off at an angle. Okay. And you can adjust this angle. So I'm going to open up this dialog box to really start looking at this chamfer. And there's a bunch of different ways that I can do this. I can select an edge and I could just say, oh, cut down this much. I can come over here and do an actual angle if I know the angle. But then again, like I said, we really don't want to be dealing with angles. We really are going to be concerned with is more going to be distances. All right. So if we have that, All right. And you have two distances that we want to deal with. The distance 1, okay, so let's take a look at distance 1. That's going to be how far down I want to cut. And this is going to cut down, let's go 3 down. And how far in do I want to go? Well, I only want to go in 2. So you can see that I've selected this where I can actually input 2 different distances to cut off that corner. All right. And then I've just applied distance 1 and distance 2, which refers to the distance from this corner over and this corner down. So there's chamfer. Click OK. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. I'm going to start from this side over here. And I'm going to take a plane. And I'm going to click. And I'm going to start pushing in. All right, and so I get a new plane. But I want it to be a specific distance. And I think the overall distance I set this to before was 8. So let's make this 4. Oh no, it went in the wrong direction. So what do? Well, I'm just going to use my arrow key and put negative. -4. All right. There's also another option that you can do in here with a mid-plane between 2 planes as well. So you can do that as well. And I can show you that one now. So I'm just going to Control Z. And so what happens if I select this one? So if I want to go halfway between that and that, bam, I get one right in the center, right? With the no measurements. In the middle of my part. Pretty cool, right? I'm going to show you another cool shortcut here. So I'm going to put a sketch on that work plane, and we have to go on the orange side of that work plane. So I'm going to go into this work plane. Oh man, but there's stuff in my way. All right. If you hit the F7 key on your keyboard, you can see how now what I've gotten is I've got a cutaway of my object. And if I go back into an isometric view, you can see how it just cuts it for me. All right, and what that's doing is it's slicing the graphics, it's called. So that's pretty handy. And I know now that I know my measurements are a little off on this one, but you know, all I have to do is go from that corner to that corner, come on in and complete my triangle geometry. All right, from here to here, complete a triangle. Finish the sketch, and now I have a triangle. So what I want to do is I want to extrude that triangle, but this is going to be different. That triangle needs to be a thickness of 2, all right? So 2, but I want it to be centered on the object itself, so I'm going to select symmetric, okay? So you can select one direction, you can select another direction, or I can say symmetric, and there you go. So now it's symmetric about that plane, all right?